Everybody, my name's Alicia and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about my 5-star predictions. So these are all the books that I have a pretty good feeling about. You know, I feel like I'm really going to enjoy them for various reasons, and they're just giving off that vibe where I think I'm going to like them. So let's get into it. Off, I have Jade City by Fonda Lee. So this is an adult fantasy, an urban fantasy book, and my reasoning behind it feeling like a 5-star is mostly because of other people. Like a lot of people that are on, Book Talk, Booktube have really hyped this book up, and they are people that I sometimes have, pretty similar reading tastes with, and I definitely love a good fantasy book. So taking all of that into consideration, I think it's gonna be a 5 stars. I don't necessarily love urban fantasy books, so it may be a little off, but I do think based on what everybody's saying, it has a good chance of being 5 stars. So we'll see, but that's number 1. Next, I have The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So this is a bit of a booktube darling. I feel like so many people love this book, and it is a bit older. I think it came out in like 2014 or something, so it has been around for a while, and I still haven't read it. But what I know about it is not much, but what I do know is that it's about this kind of magical circus that only shows up every now and then, and I believe only in the night. And then behind the scenes, there's this bit of like a magical competition between two magicians, and I don't know if that has to do with like the circus itself or something else, but either way, based off that premise, it sounds really intriguing, and it's definitely giving me Where Dreams Descend, that book's vibes, even though obviously this came before it, but I have read Where Dreams Descend and I did enjoy it, and I like the concept, of a circus and everything. So I think that part I'm definitely gonna like. And in terms of Erin Morgenstern, I haven't read anything from her, but I know that she has a really beautiful way of writing and a really kind of whimsical writing style. And in terms of that writing style, I know not everybody loves that, but I definitely am a person that like loves those flowy, lyrical, whimsical descriptions and writing. So in terms of writing, I definitely think I'm gonna like it. Next 5-star prediction is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife by Ashley Winstead. So this is a adult thriller, and it's a book that came out pretty recently, and I have heard quite a few people talking about it and saying they really liked it. So that's definitely giving me good hopes. But what I do know about this is it's a college reunion. It has to do with some friends who are coming back for their college reunion, and I believe back when they were still in college, one of their friends in this friend group was killed, and another friend in the friend group was not convicted for the murder, but it was basically thought that he was the murderer, even though he wasn't convicted. And so now at this college reunion, all of these friends are coming back, and kind of secrets are going to be uncovered and things like that. And so again, based on the premise, it sounds really fun, and I love a thriller, or actually any book that really has like an ensemble cast in a way, where there's lots of characters, and especially in a thriller, it kind of feels like this is going to be a whodunit mystery, and I really love those. So yeah, this is definitely has a lot of features that I really like in stories. So 5 stars. Here's to hoping. Next I have An Ember in the Ashes by Sabathir. So this is not actually, I was gonna say this is pretty popular, but it's actually not that popular, and I don't know if it's because it is another bit of an older book, but the people that do talk about this usually say how much they love it, and it has brown characters on the cover, so I feel like I don't really need much more than that to want to love it. And then based on the premise, it sounds really intriguing. It basically is this ancient Rome inspired world, and we have these two characters that are kind of from opposing sides, and they are gonna either fight against each other or end up on the same team and try to save the world. And that was a really bad description, but it says on the back, lie as a slave, a lie as a soldier, neither is free. And so yeah, that just sounds really cool. And again, I've heard a lot of great things about this book and Sabathir as an author, and so I think it's going to be a good one. Then next up, I have Certain Dark Things by Sylvia Moreno Garcia. So first of all, this cover is just absolutely gorgeous. I love this. So I'm really hoping I love this book just because I love the cover so much. And I genuinely don't know anything about this book, but Silvia Moreno Garcia is one of my favorite authors. I have loved pretty much every book that I have read of hers, and I've read like 4 or 5 of them. And that's all I really need to know. I think it's definitely like her writing and her characterization are some of the best that I've ever read. And then also every book that she's ever put out is just really unique and really different from each other. Even they're always like take place in a different kind of historical era. They always have really unique settings and plots and things like that. So there's always something new to read about in her books. Basically what I know about this is that it has to do with vampires, and in the inside here it says, "Welcome to Mexico City, an oasis in a sea of vampires. Domingo, a lonely garbage collecting street kid, is just trying to survive its heavily policed streets when a jaded vampire on the run swoops into his life. Adol, the descendant of Aztec blood drinkers, is smart and beautiful and very dangerous. Domingo is mesmerized." So that sounds really cool. So yeah, basically I'm predicting this as 5 stars just because of the author and because I love the author so much. So next I have Dial A for Aunties by Jessie Q. Sutanto. So this is a adult romance book, and it's also a bit of a mystery thriller. We're basically following a main character who goes on a blind date and ends up killing said blind date accidentally, and then she has to call in reinforcements who are her aunties, who are going to try to help her deal with this dead body. So that just sounds really fun right off the bat, and this is another book that I feel like is slowly getting a little more hype because I have been hearing really good things about it. And just again, like based on the plot and the premise of it, it just sounds really fun. It sounds like it's going to be a fun kind of rom-com type of book, and I'm really excited to read it, and I'm hoping for 5 stars. So next I have a book that I really know nothing about again, but that is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. And this is another book that I am kind of basing my 5-star prediction off of the author, because Laini Taylor wrote one of my favorite YA fantasies ever, and that of course is Strange the Dreamer. So I definitely know that I love her writing, and she just has really unique ideas, really great characters, and overall well, at least the one series that I've read of hers has just been fantastic. So I'm hoping for the same with this one. But what do I know about this? Nothing. It says, from master storyteller and National Book Award finalist Laini Taylor comes a sweeping and gorgeously written modern fantasy about a forbidden love, an ancient and epic battle, and hope for a world remade. That sounds really cool. And another thing that I know about this is I think the main character has blue hair, and like blue is a really big deal in this book. I might just be making that up, but I definitely think I've seen that before. And completely unrelated, but Percy Jackson and the idea of blue in that story, if you've read those, you know what I'm talking about. But I don't know, I feel like blue is a really great thing to have in fantasy books. Might make no sense, but 5 stars. We're feeling it. Next I have Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir, and this, mostly for the hype I'm giving, or I'm thinking it's gonna be 5 stars because so many people, I've seen this on so many like best books of 2021 lists, and so many people like raving about it. So I feel like, you know, I have a pretty safe bet to say it's gonna be 5 stars. I also definitely really love sci-fi stories that take place in space, and I think this is like a first contact like alien story, so that also sounds really cool. And I've also heard that this book has like a really great sense of humor and is just a really fun time. So putting that all together, I'm hoping for 5 stars, and I definitely think that this is one that I feel really confident about. So I'm feeling like it's a for sure 5 stars. And then my last few books are actually, I think, all 2022 releases, or so they've either been released already or they're going to be released in 2022, but some more that we're hoping for 5 stars. So first up is probably the most kind of like controversial out there 5-star prediction, because it is Nona the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. So this is the 3rd installment in the Gideon the Ninth series, and Gideon the Ninth, I have to say, is one of my favorite books. This whole series is just so much fun, so unique, so weird, and I love every second of it. And I know that this book in the series is just really controversial because a lot of people love it, but also a lot of people hate it or just super confused by it. And I totally understand that, because this is probably one of the most confusing books I've ever read. Basically what it's about is this girl named Gideon who is on this really like depleted planet. Well, okay, It's basically, let's take it back because that's not gonna make sense. So basically this is a world where there are 9 different planets, and each planet kind of has their own sort of like society and leaders and things like that. And Gideon is this orphan who is kind of against her will being forced to be on the 9th planet. And she and the kind of leader of the 9th planet, Harrow, are very much at odds with each other. They grew up on this planet and are really the only children on this planet, so they only had each other to kind of befriend, even though it's more of like they're definitely enemies. But basically they end up, there's this sort of trial to become the next emperor, that all of these planets are invited to bring their like best leaders and the best cavalry. I think it's what they call them, cavalry, or basically the right-hand person, to come along and do this kind of tests and tribulations to determine who will be the next emperor. And so Harrow and Gideon from the 9th planet, end up going, and they end up going to this place where they really have no idea how they're gonna determine who's gonna be the next emperor. It's supposed to be this whole kind of test where each little group from each planet is gonna fight against each other, but it's ends up being this much more like mind games and tricks and things like that. And what ends up happening is it turns into this murder mystery because suddenly people start dying, and then Gideon and Harrow, as well as the remaining people, are trying to figure out who is killing these people. And they're in this like very isolated place, this house. And yeah, if you're already confused, I'm sorry, because this book is just really confusing. But that was the plot for the first book. The second book, which is called Harrow the Ninth, is even more confusing than the first book, and it's probably, like, I can definitively say the most confusing book I've ever read. And it's just, the first 60 to 70% of that book makes zero sense. So I feel like you really needed to love the first book to even pick up the second book, and then once you pick up the second book, like, you really need to know, like, need to want to know what's going to happen to get to the end. But that being said, I personally think the like last 30% of that book makes it all worth it, because it's just some of my favorite stuff going on, and it's just so crazy, so unique, so weird. So anyways, that's like a bit of a you know, if you haven't picked up this book series and any of that sounds interesting, you definitely should. But with Nona the Ninth, the third book, it basically, so with this actual series, I think it was initially supposed to be 3 books, but the author decided to add a book. So the third book was supposed to be Elector the Ninth, which is supposed to be the last book, but now there's Nona the Ninth. And in both of the first 2 books, I don't think we ever heard of Nona as a character, and I'm assuming it's a character in the book. And so I have really no idea what to expect from this book. I have no idea, like, if we're even going to be following the same characters. And based on how the, like, Harrow the Ninth ended, like, I have no idea what direction this book could go in. So again, this is why, taken aback, I definitely think this is the most questionable 5 stars. This is the book that I'm most worried is actually going to end up being 5 stars. Like, this could very much be like the worst book in the series, you know, depends on where the book goes and how it's written. But given how much I love the series and how much I'm willing to stick through it to the end, I am hoping, and I definitely, I'm hoping, and I feel like it's possible it'll be 5 stars. I don't know, we'll see. So next I have Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee, and this, I believe, is an adult mystery. And first of all, I love the cover, and I'm super excited for when this book's out so I can buy this book. And I don't know much about it. What I do know is it's basically a heist novel about the kind of true happenings of Western museums that used to like steal, or like not steal, they used to, like, Chinese art used to vanish in these Western museums. And so it's about, I think, like reclaiming the Chinese identity and art and all of those things. A Chinese corporation reaches out to the main character in this book and basically gets him to get involved in this heist where he has to go and steal 5 of these priceless Chinese art pieces, I believe across like different countries. And so this just sounds really cool, and I really haven't read a lot of heist novels, but I definitely love it as like a plot and like as a trope, I guess you could call it. So this just sounds really cool. And then to have this whole idea of like reclaiming this lost identity and kind of going against like imperialism and colonization and things like that, I just feel like this book is gonna bring up a lot of important and interesting discussions and topics. So I feel like 5 stars is in order. So next I have a book from a author who I've already talked about, but this is All My Rage by Sabaa Tahir, and I believe this comes out on March 1st, so pretty soon, and I'm definitely looking forward to this book. I'm really excited about this book, and in terms of like what I've heard about it from people I really trust on booktube that I have similar taste to, have talked about how this book has like broken them, and it's so emotional, impactful, and amazing. So I can give it 5 stars already. And this is Sabaa Tahir's first contemporary book. So of course she has her Ember in the Ashes series, and then this is her first book away from that series. So I just think, again, based on what I've heard, it feels like a 5-star read, and it's reminding me of Tara Mafi and her contemporary books. So A Very Large Expanse of Sea and Emotion of Great Delight. So it's giving me those vibes, and I loved both of those books. So again, 5 stars. And it basically, Sabaa Tahir is Pakistani, and so she's talking from that experience and that point of view, I guess. I think all the characters in this book are Pakistani, and as a Pakistani myself, I feel like that representation is going to be great. And I don't really know much about this book, and I'm kind of fine with like going into it blind, but I believe it is like 2 different timelines, and it has to do with like a timeline of these people in Pakistan immigrating to America, and then a timeline with their kids. I could be totally off by that, but I think that's what it is. And I really like stories that have 2 separate timelines and like talk about ancestors and things like that. So yeah, overall this book feels like it has a lot of things that I definitely know I like in books. So that's why it's feeling like 5 stars. So next we have another book that I'm kind of basing off of just the cover, but Good Rich People by Eliza Jane Brazier. This cover is just another one that is so pretty and so cool, and I just really want to love it because I want to keep this book on my shelves. But this is a adult thriller, and I don't know much about this, but like obviously based on the title, it's going to deal with rich people and like rich people problems, so that's always a fun time. But it says inside, a destitute woman deceives her way into the guest house of a Hollywood Hills mansion and inadvertently becomes a target in the twisted game of the wealthy family upstairs. And so that sounds cool. And now we've come to the last book on my list, and that is Dating Dr. Dil by, I believe, Nisha Sharma. And so this is an adult romance book that I am really excited for. It hasn't come out yet. I believe it comes out at the end of February. And I'm just really excited about this book. I've kind of been like in a romance kick, and I found this book, and it just sounds really fun. And first of all, I love representation in romance books, especially like South Asian, any Asian representation, because I feel like, you know, romance, that genre doesn't really have this kind of representation. It's usually about white people falling in love, and you know, all races can fall in love, and I love seeing that in the romance genre. But in terms of this book specifically, this book deals with apparently a love-phobic doctor, TV doctor, who is now trying to get this woman to fall in love with him. That just sounds really cool and really fun. Like, I don't think I've ever really read something like that in a romance book where it's like a TV doctor, and I mean, it's giving me like Dr. Phil vibes, but like hot. So I don't know, and we'll see. Yeah, like based on the plot, I think it is going to be a fun book, and I'm just hoping for the best, because another thing, I don't always have a good track record when it comes to romance books. I'm pretty hard to please with romance books, so I mean, I'm hoping this one is done well and is worth a 5 stars. So we'll see. And that is it. Those are a lot of books, but a lot of those are, I'm hoping, are 5 stars and live up to my expectations for them and other people's expectations. You know, the hype is real, and a lot of these I'm just basing on the hype, so you know, they better live up to it. But thanks guys for watching, and I will see you next time.